I don't know if you guys have ever studied this aspect, but the Quran warns about the number 19.
No, we don't believe that.
I'm a bit concerned about the number 19.
That's a conspiracy theory. It has no validity to it.
Okay.
That's something of Rashad Khalifa
You're not concerned
in the
about
19th
that
century.
one.
You see,
Okay.
subcontinent, there's sometimes
Which part of India are you from?
Indian subcontinent. I said Pakistan I'm from.
Pakistan.
Yeah, but I mean the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to marry fair-skinned women as opposed to darker women. So race gets in the way of people's religiosity. Political issues can. But I think what's most important is theologically, do we remain firm? And I would say to a large degree, most Muslims believe in the original message. They haven't departed from the original message, which is that it's you and God. We don't go through something. What do you believe yourself? Do you believe in God?
Well, I find the Quran interesting because it seems to encourage critical thinking.
Yeah.
So do you find that you can study many different scriptures and with a critical mind, and it teaches you more to think for yourself and not just follow blind faith.
Yeah.
You have to kind of explore your relationship with God, Allah, and try to reach your own conclusions more. So I like the fact that the Quran does that, and whereas the Bible also is very rich in information, it doesn't encourage so much in the way of critical thinking. It's almost like there are some parables and stuff but they're more. It's a different approach,
Right.
to the Quran.
Yeah.
But what about your belief? He asked you if you believed in God. Do you actually believe in God?
Yeah. I believe in God.
Okay,
And I
nice.
believe, like I say, all the Abrahamic faiths maybe go back to one shared religion that got
That's exactly what
divided.
Islam teaches,
So I think it got divided into many Protestant churches, many of them. You've got Catholic, then you've got the Orthodox.
Right.
And
as Muslims, we believe that all the prophets, like from Prophet Adam all the way to Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, they all worship the same God. And they all have this one religion.
Yeah, I think Arabic was very important, and I think the Quran is written in Old Arabic.
Yeah, classical Arabic. So I mean, the Quranic Arabic has its own genre, but the thing is, like I said, the concept of God didn't change. So it's always been one unique God who is indivisible, and this God is the one to be worshipped. He didn't have like three persons in one and all that. That came much later. Even after Jesus. In the time of Jesus, there were no Christians who believed in so-called Trinity. Not until the 4th century when the church, established this doctrine. So what we are saying is that as Muslims, we actually come to Speaker's Corner so we can tell people that these religions, you see them as multiple religions, but the original religion is just one, the worship of one God. And that has been consistent. If you look at the Old Testament, even the teachings of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, for example, he says in John 17:3, this is eternal life, that they may know you, pointing to the Father, you the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom you have sent. So he clearly identifies himself as the Christ, and he identifies the only true God as his God, which normally the Christians term as the Father. So what I mean?
Are you from Pakistan as well?
No, we are from the same subcontinent.
From Karachi, or you've been to Karachi?
I've been to Karachi.
Karachi, yeah.
So
I'm interested in the Parsis as well. And
Zoroasters.
I'm interested in the Zoroastrians. I'm trying to research it. Does this country have a lot of Sikhs? But I think the Parsis are more in Mumbai, maybe Karachi and Gujarat. So I try to find out.
Because it's closer to Iran.
But Zoroasters converted to Islam writ large.
Okay.
They didn't convert because of conquest. They were Zoroasters in the Islamic Empire for centuries.
Okay.
And they converted because their message has again been corrupted, like we spoke about before. They don't go to God directly. And they've made this type of dualism. You know about the dualism they have, right?
Yes, sure.
So the Quran says, say not there is, say not there's two God, there's one God. So in terms of Jesus, like your background's Christian, right?
Well, I'm born in a Christian country, but I was, because there's so many churches and denominations, although obviously I believe in God, and I feel I got misled into a certain type of church that doesn't fit me. So ever since then, I've been pushed more towards Orthodox and Islam, since I found out that the Protestant church doesn't seem to match my personality.
Right.
So I'm heading more in the Orthodox and Islam direction.
When you say Orthodox, you mean Orthodox Christians?
What I like about Orthodox is they follow a translation of the Bible, which is seems more closer to the original of the.
They believe in a monarchic model of the Trinity, but they still believe in the Trinity.
But they used what they call the Septuagint, which is different to the Masoretic or the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah, but that's the Old Testament.
Yeah, but they use the Septuagint, has a lot more, what I believe to be accurate information, and I believe the modern translations for the Protestant churches have a lot of missing information compared to the original scriptures.
That's with regards to the Old Testament? The Septuagint?
The Old Testament.
Yeah, exactly.
The New Testament is unchanged, really.
But if you look at the Orthodox belief, they don't believe the same model of the Trinity as the Catholics do.
Exactly.
So even the New Testament does differ in the terms of the doctrine that the church adopts. So when you say Orthodox, you still are believing in a form of Trinity, which is different to the Catholics.
What I like
more
about
of a monarchic
Orthodox
model.
is, again, their approach to academia. So if you're going to approach this from an academic perspective, a bit like the Quran asks us to scrutinize things and to have critical thinking. If I'm going to approach the Christian Bible with a critical thinking, I would look at the Orthodox text to be more accurate, more closer to the original source, and the Hebrew.
But you can go back further, sir. You can go back before the Orthodox to the earliest Christians, and the earliest Christians worshipped God alone. They did not believe Jesus is God.
I would call them Christians.
Yeah, I believe the Quran is
Christians
older.
came later on.
I believe the Quran is older than like the Old Testament. Even in whatever translation, I believe the Quran is probably older.
The thing is, what do you believe about Jesus, sir? What's your belief about him?
Well, the thing is, I'm still, in terms of details, I'm still not really able to form an opinion.
So would you say sent by God, or is he God or sent by God? What would you say?
Right, well, I'm trying to unravel a problem about whether Jesus was crucified and whether he was resurrected, or whether,
No, but in terms of the question you asked you with regards to his divinity, do you consider Jesus to be the Son of God and divine as God, like the Orthodox and in fact, all the churches believe this. All the mainstream churches believe this. They consider him to be divine and equal to God.
Right. No, there's no way he's equal to God. No, I would say God is more powerful than Jesus. Okay. But I still believe...
Jesus is human, that's why.
Do you think Jesus worshipped God?
You see, I don't really, I'm more, right now I'm kind of sort of having a break from Christianity, and I'm kind of looking at the Quran, and again, I tend to approach it holistically. So I'm looking at the problem as going back to a dispute over Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, and I'm currently researching...
We don't have a dispute. As Muslims, we consider that, in fact, the Quran says, that means we do not distinguish between the different messengers of God. So for us, as Muslims, we don't have an issue. We accept them all, and we accept them as prophets, nowhere equal to
Jesus as well.
We don't consider them to be divine at all. So just like all the messengers came and they died, Jesus eventually will die. We believe in the second coming of Jesus. We believe in the miraculous birth of Jesus. We believe in the miracles he performed. So as Muslims, we don't have an issue. In fact, we are in line with what Jesus did, apart from the fact that the church then elevated Jesus to the level of God, including the Orthodox Church.
That's way later, that's after...
4th century onwards.
But the message in the Quran is the same message as Moses and Noah and Abraham,
and Jesus.
Which is and Jesus, that if you worship God alone, you go to paradise, right?
Eternal life.
And
I feel...
so just one small thing. He said, was Jesus worshipping God? That's what he asked. He actually mentions in the Bible that he worships God.
I feel
Isn't it?
presence with God. I mean, it's very difficult to explain. I understand why Jesus is very important. Some people need Jesus in their life, and maybe not everyone can go directly to God either. So it's a very complicated thing in terms of how religions have evolved over time. But what I'm really interested in the most is what the Quran, because obviously the Quran tells a different story to the Bible when it comes to Moses. Moses in the Quran is a different
type of person,
narrative compared to the Bible. So I'm interested in studying all the scriptures side by side.
Have you looked at chapter 18 of the Quran?
If I had the time, I would be looking.
It's a very short chapter, but it goes over a very powerful story of Moses, right? And the Quran repeatedly goes over the story of Moses, and that chapter in particular. What's the chapter of Maryam?
Surah Al-Kahf. No, 18 is Surah Al-Kahf.
Yeah, but what's the one?
19 is Maryam.
Maryam. 19 is Maryam and Mary, right? I advise you to read that, because the thing is, one thing that we don't know whether we're going to be alive next year.
Sure, yeah.
We had COVID, many people died, many people die in accidents. If you believe in God alone and worship in God alone,
I've seen proof of God, and I can see proof of God directly without any proxy element needed. So God is really he's everywhere, omnipresent, and I can easily prove to someone. I mean, I prefer someone they should do the work first. They should look at the Quran, they should look at the Bible, they should do some work themselves. But if I wanted to prove God to someone, it's not.
In fact, what you just said, it's in line with what the Quran says in Surah Al-Fussilat, that Allah, Almighty God, will show you signs within yourself and beyond the horizon. Yes. So if you look at the creation, including yourself,
it reminds you of God.
You see the signs of God. Yes.
I don't know if you guys have ever studied this aspect, but the Quran warns about the number 19.
No, we don't believe that.
I'm a bit concerned about number 19.
That's a conspiracy theory. It has no validity to it.
That's something called Rashad Khalifa in the 19th century.
You see, the most important message we want to give you is that you should not believe Jesus is divine. Because if someone believes Jesus is divine or prays to him, we believe that person is associating partners with God. And that for all of the Abrahamic faiths is the greatest crime. The greatest crime you can commit is to associate partners with God. So we should not worship anyone besides God.
You mean because they see them as being equal to God or something?
Even if you don't believe
to be divine, then
even if you believe Jesus to be not equal, but even if you believe he has powers, he can hear you, he can listen to your prayer, he's God's son. If you believe any of those things, then you're committing idolatry, and Jesus cannot be God's son because Jesus is a human. God is eternal. God has no beginning, no end. Do you believe Jesus is? You don't believe he's the son of God, do you?
Okay, how would I describe Jesus? Right, number one, he's not God's equal. He's created by God, number one. So he's definitely not equal.
He's a creation of God.
As for being a son, I mean, a son is a very specific relationship. Again, I'm not really...
It depends how you see son. For example, many religions, they say that we are all children of God. Now that is very different to what the Christians believe. They believe that he's the literal son of God and he's equal to God.
Yeah, I think God has used Jesus, and whether the word divine has a lot of extra...
I want to go.
She's feeling cold.
She wants to go now.
What's your name, sir?
Giles. Yeah, it's really.
We're here every Sunday. It's very nice speaking to you.
Yeah, you should come back. Maybe when you have more time.
It's a pleasure. I love talking about these things.
No problem. You take care.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Guys,
Yes. Salam alaikum, guys.